A lot of
Recording
noises.
has started. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Adventures of DJ and Friends with Vic and Swig.
Yo.
Hi. Hi, I'm not Swig.
Huh. Okay. Which one of y'all also has the article open?
the the
Oh, I completely forgot to read it, but I will open it.
Okay. Since Vic can't read it without disconnecting, me and Swig are gonna read it like popcorn, kind of like popcorn read it.
get ready for a
One
story, kids.
one paragraph at a time.
hmm
Oh wait, I forgot to get the article. Hold up.
Which one of us is gonna go
Wait,
first?
I'm gonna go first.
let's see.
Alright, you ready?
We shall fight to the death. Whoever wins, read it. Read.
Knife noises.
Alright. Alright, ready?
Stab, stab, stab.
Are we ready?
This is a true crime
Yeah.
system, so yeah.
Yeah, today's a true crime
It's
podcast. Today,
yeah, it's
yeah, 21 years after he served died in an electric chair for the savage murder of three teenagers, Kenneth McDuff was back on the streets as cocky and mean and dangerous as ever in the small central Texas community of Rosebud, where McDuff grew up. People pumped shells into shotguns and shoved heavy pieces of furniture in front of double and triple locked doors. This is a walking town, said John Kilgore, the editor of Rosebud News. But these days, you see very few people on the streets. McDuff,
But
McDuff's return has scared the hell out of this town. At festival days in Falls, county seat of Marlin, word spread like wildfire that Macduff was sworn to show up and kill one person for every day he spent in prison. Tommy Salmon, who had humiliated Macduff in a play fight in the 8th grade, worried about his teenage children. A man who had once prevented Macduff from crushing the throat of a young woman with a broomstick. Okay, a dress rehearsal for what Macduff would do to a teenage girl in southern Tarrant County some months later, pushed the buttons on his telephone answering machine and was greeted with the sound of three gunshots. No question about it, Kenneth Macduff was back in town.
okay, now who's reading the next paragraph?
Swig.
All right.
it was October 11th, 1989. Falls County Sheriff Larry Pamplin telephoned his longtime friend, Deputy U.S. Marshal McNamara, uh, Parnell McNamara in Waco and told him, "You're not going to believe what happened, Parnell. They've paroled Kenneth McDuff." There was a brittle silence as McNamara processed this totally illogical piece of information. Then McNamara iconically inquired, "Have they gone crazy?" There didn't seem to be any other explanation. McDuff wasn't just another killer who had fallen through a crack in the system. He was the most violent, sadistic, remorseless criminal either of these veteran lawmen have ever crossed. Their association with McDuff went back more than a quarter of a century because their fathers, the late Deputy U.S. Marshal T.P. McNamara and the late Falls County Sheriff Brady Pamplin, had seen Macduff's savagery up close. Brady Pamplin was the lawman who had arrested Macduff in 1966 for the three murders literally shooting Macduff's car to pieces as he tried to escape. People had always wondered why Brady Pamplin didn't kill Macduff when he had the chance to. No telling how many lives that would have saved. Larry Pamplin and Parnell McNara and his brother, Mike, who was also a deputy marshal in Waco, were teenagers at this time, about the same age as Macduff, and the incident had made a permanent impression on them. Parnell McNara remembered how Brady Pamplin's voice broke as he described the killings to Parnell's father. TP, he put a broomstick across the throat of that poor little girl up in Tarrant County and broke her neck just like you'd kill a possum. Brady Pamplin was as tough and as able as any lawman who had ever lived, a legendary figure who had been a Texas Ranger before World War II and had served as sheriff Falls County for nearly 30 years. A man who had stood toe to toe with the worst that society could spit up, but his voice quivered and his hand shook when he talked about Kenneth Macduff.
What really? What, Vic? Are you able to do the next paragraph?
Yeah,
Alright,
let's see.
go
What
ahead.
really burned in the what really burned in the guts of the lawmen was how the system had failed so utterly, how at every juncture Macduff had thumbed his nose at authority and sent it reeling. Brady Pamplin and the other Central Texas lawmen had been handling Macduff since he was a teenager, had seen flashes of his sadistic nature and his complete contempt for the rules of society. They finally put him away on a series of burglary charges in 1965, or so they thought. Macduff was assessed penalties totaling 52 years, but because he was only 18, the sentences were assessed concurrently instead of consecutively. Macduff made trustee in 3 months and was back on the street in less than 10, a smirk on his face suggesting that the time had been well spent. 8 months after he was paroled, Macduff went on one of his periodic rampages and killed 3 teenagers. A jury gave him death, but after a 1972 Supreme Court decision effectively overturned all the death sentences in the United States, Macduff's sentence was commuted to life. In 1976, 10 years after the murders, Macduff had seen enough time to be eligible for parole, though the parole board was certainly under no obligation to grant it, and hardly anyone supposed that it would ever would.
But Macduff had time on his side. He applied for parole, and when the board turned him down, he kept applying until he succeeded. And now law enforcement officers say that as many as 9 women may be dead as a result. This spring, the entire nation learned what the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles couldn't figure out. Kenneth Macduff is an unrepentant, uh, habitual killer. He was featured on America's Most Wanted and became the object of a nationwide manhunt. In Texas, the story of his twisted career was front page news, especially along the Interstate 35 corridor, where he had stalked his victims by the time he was reapprehended. Kenneth Macduff had come to personalize the violent crime wave that swept Texas in the past year. A crime wave abetted by a cynical parole policy whose aim has been to empty the prisons rather than safeguard the streets. Your turn, Swig.
Oh man,
Swig?
Spix is gone.
Oh
Hold up.
no.
I could get back into this thing.
Yeah, ping him, I guess.
I don't know. Why can't I get back on stage?
Oh, he said be right back. You are on stage.
Oh wait, I don't know, but I'm still like on the thing where like it lists all the channels.
Oh, just click the stage icon.
I pressed it and it's like not. Ah man, this glitch.
Oh, you want to read the next line then?
Um, yeah, I could do that. To gain parole from the Texas Department of Criminal Justice as the super board that controls paroles, pardons, and the prison system is now called, an inmate needs 2 votes from a 3-person parole board team in 1979 and again in 1980. McDuff got one of the 2 votes he needed, falling short by what must have seemed to him just a matter of bad luck. When he came up for parole the following year, McDuff tried to jigger the odds by offering a 10,000 bribe to a member of the parole board. He was subsequently tried and convicted for the bribery attempt. Despite the brutal nature of the murders, the fact that he was a 3-time loser, and his bribery conviction, the parole board continued to view him as a good risk for release. In 1984 and 1985, McDuff again came within a single vote of gaining freedom. Finally, he got a second vote in 1988 and was approved for parole, but the approval was rescinded with when new information was received. The parole board refuses to reveal the nature of the new information, but normally it would be letters of protest from the judge and the prosecutor at his trial. A year after that, to the shock of those same trial officials and to law enforcement officers as well, the parole board saw himself fit to return McDuffie to society. No, Macduff had fallen through the cracks in the system. He had slid through cleverly and ingeniously, like a rodent in the shadows.
On the day that Macduff was let out of prison and told to report to a parole officer in Temple where his parents had moved, Sheriff Larry Pamplin made a prediction. I don't know if it'll be next week or next month or next year, he told Parnell and Mike McNamara. But one of these days, dead girls are going to start turning up, and when that happens, the man you need to look for is Kenneth McDuff. 3 days later, the naked body of 29-year-old Seraphia Parker was discovered in the field of weeds in southeast Temple,
Back, sorry.
beaten and strangled. Ooh, that's gonna be a lot for us.
Aching aching to prowl. The Macduffs weren't the friendliest family in Rosebud when Kenneth was growing up.
Hold
In
on.
fact, they were downright weird.
Mm.
But they weren't white trash either. They worked hard, saved their money, and regularly attended the Assembly of God Church. Kenneth's father, J. A. Macduff, was a cement finisher who made a lot of money in the business during the building boom in Temple in the late 70s and early 80s. Addie Macduff was a large, domineering woman who ruled over her 4 daughters and 2 sons, maintained the family purse, and operated a washateria across the street from the family home, just off Main Street. Newspaper editor John Kilgore recalls, "The Macduffs were very dedicated to their children, attentive, protective, making sure they grew up knowing how to work and work hard."
One more
Okay,
paragraph. Oh, dang it.
yeah.
Mm.
Oh, there will be more, and we will continue later.
Ooh.
Some people thought they were a little too protective. Addie Macduff and her 3 eldest daughters lavished attention on Kenneth and treated him as though he were a young god, somehow above the rules that restrained other children. Though Kenneth had a younger sister, He was regarded as the baby of the family. Classmates remember that Kenneth always had money in his pocket and usually wore new clothes. When he was older, his mother bought him a motorcycle that was probably the loudest machine in Rosebud. Kenneth's father was a tight-lipped man who went about his business and left family matters to his wife, although apparently he did not share her unwavering devotion to Kenneth. When Kenneth was charged with the three murders in Tarrant County, J.A., Macduff told the lawman, "If I believed he did what you say, the state wouldn't have to kill him. I'd do it myself." Anyway, that's where we leave off for today.
Yay.
Ookie doke.
Until next time on the podcast. Bye.
We shall. Bye.
Bye.